When my son was born, he was immediately taken from the room on a crash cart with a team of kind of neonatal intensive care doctors, and so I didn't get to touch him or hold him. I saw him very briefly as he was kind of wheeled past. I walked into the room and I didn't know which baby was mine, and that's quite a kind of hard thing to cope with, not knowing, you know, where your child is or which one is yours in a row of incubators. So yeah, it was definitely a different start to motherhood, and that brings up a lot of different feelings.
Each year, an estimated 58,000 babies are born prematurely. For parents, bonding with their newborns is made all the more difficult in the neonatal unit. Lorna Tallowin had to deal with this trauma after giving birth to her son 7 months into her pregnancy.
I found bonding really difficult with my child because he was really tiny. He seemed very fragile to me. He had his eyes were covered with a kind of eye mask. He had breathing apparatus on his face, so I couldn't really see what he looked like. He had lots of tubes and wires, and I'm not kind of a medical professional, so I found that all quite intimidating. So really, instead of feeling that like rush of positive emotion, I just felt fear. I felt really scared. I was kindly given a side room in the labour ward, so I wasn't on a ward with lots of kind of other mums and babies who were together, but I was opposite the bereavement counsellors room, and I jumped to a conclusion that because my baby was in intensive care and they'd put me on my own next to a bereavement counsellor's ward, that my baby was going to die, and that's why they'd done that. So I think just I was scared to bond with him because I didn't know if I would get to take him home.
UNICEF has suggested that one of the best ways to bond with the baby is through skin-to-skin care, where the baby is laid on the mother's bare chest after the first feed. This stimulates the mother's release of hormones for breastfeeding and regulates the baby's heartbeat. In neonatal units, this is impossible, as the focus is on stabilising the newborn's condition.
I think it was a few days before we were able to have our first skin-to-skin contact, which is where they get the baby naked or just in a nappy and they put them on your naked chest. And that was lovely and beautiful, but also several days after he was born. So that kind of delay in being able to kind of hold and touch your child is quite, it's quite damaging to bonding.
However, knitters are picking up their pins to offer a lifeline to these mothers. A group of volunteers at Erewash Museum have been bringing together the community through donating bonding squares to Queen's Medical Centre. The driving force behind the group is Sam Walters-Mabbott. She explained the magic in the making.
A bonding square is 2 sets of either knitted or crochet yarn, matching preferably. They don't have to be matching. One goes in the incubator with baby and one stays with mum, and they swap every 12 hours, and then that way the scent of mum helps baby recognise mum. The smell of the baby's square when they swap over helps mum produce milk, so it gives them a connection where touch isn't an option.
Lorna was gifted some bonding squares.
Yeah, so I was given by, I think, some volunteers had knitted some little blue bonding squares, and I was given 2, so I would kind of exchange. I keep one in my bra because I was pumping to try and keep breast milk coming to him. It's really important for premature babies. So I was swapping one and putting it in his incubator, so his smell was always with me, and then doing the same. But yeah, they were like a really nice gesture and a nice part of bonding. But I think a lot of parents, and myself particularly, I really struggled with the kind of bonding aspect, because you learn in the hospital to do kind of cares for your baby, which is to, administer the tube feed in a syringe that goes down into their nose tube and into their stomachs. And you learn how to do kind of different observations, like take their temperature, and it's just a very kind of clinical way of caring for your child and asking permission from nurses and doctors. Can I hold my baby today? Are they stable enough to hold them? So for them to be, you would have to sit next to your baby and ask permission for them to hold them, and then wait until several nurses were free to come and kind of undo everything and then put them on you, and then kind of put all the tubes and wires back so that the baby was stable on you. So it's just a very tricky environment in which to bond. So anything like the bonding squares really helps.
NICU mums aren't the only ones being helped. Knitting offers relief from anxiety and loneliness for many.
I learned how to crochet. I taught myself to crochet when I was recovering from having an operation. And to be fair, I did it wrong for about a year. It wasn't until I was watching a YouTube video I was like, oh, that's why it doesn't look the same, kind of thing. So I just do it as a bit of a creative outlet, and also it kind of like just helps calm me down if like I've had a bad day or I'm a little bit anxious or something's bothering me. It's going to sound weird, but the rhythm of doing it, regardless of what's happening, it just kind of, I'm doing that, I'm crocheting. It just kind of, I don't know. I don't know what it is about it, but it's very cathartic. I spent 7 weeks in a maternity unit prior to me having my youngest son, and after I had him, everything was fine. But because I'd spent such a long time in there, when I saw on the Facebook page that they were asking for bonding squares, I kind of like spoke to the management team at the museum, and they kind of said, go ahead and do it if you want to, because I knew that the museum has so many people attend and are part of a community that would embrace the idea. One of the ladies who comes to our group here, if she said she tries to fill it, she volunteers a lot, she does a lot of different things, and she does that because she doesn't want to have time on her own. She likes being with people and around people. So if she didn't come to the social stitch on a Saturday, then there's no buses where she runs on a Sunday, so she can't get out. So she could not talk to somebody from Friday right through to Monday if she didn't come out and do something. And she's got so many stories to tell. So it's great.
The best part is you can get involved too. But before you rush off to your local yarn store, here's some advice from the expert.
No metallic, sparkly yarn to be used, because under the heat lamps and in the incubator they can get very hot and they could burn the baby. Nothing with holes. So we love a granny square, and as pretty as they are, they're not practical because little tiny fingers can get caught up in the holes, and alongside that other equipment that's in there can get caught and snagged. So they recommend that nothing with a hole in, so no lace work, no granny squares or anything like that. And then the recommended size is 5-inch square. So they're really easy to make up, regardless of what your expertise is.
So you'd recommend beginners get involved doing this then?
Absolutely, yeah. It's one of, I think, is one of the easiest, what I would call charity knits to do. You don't have to know any special stitches, you don't have to decrease, you don't have to increase. It's just straightforward. Once you've cast on, or once you've got your chain, if you're a crocheter, just make it so it's 5 inches.
Please remember, bonding squares must be made in a smoke-free and pet-free environment. Hospitals will only accept clean squares, so it's best to store your knitting in a bag. When you've finished, simply post your squares to your local neonatal unit. It's a good idea to put them in a sandwich bag inside the envelope to keep them safe. Lorna has since started a business called Super Dinky with a nurse Beth who cared for her son. They've designed a specialist clothes line for preemie babies.
So we make and sell these little tiny vests, and they come in a couple of different sizes. This is our very smallest one, which is for very premature babies up to £3. And then we do one that's slightly larger, up to £5. And what we found is that parents often buy one for themselves or for their own baby, but then later down the line, once their baby is in bigger clothes, because they understand how special it is to dress your baby for the first time in something that you've chosen, or something that is really kind of bright and joyful in quite a clinical environment, people have been really supporting our Pay It Forward scheme, which is where you can buy one to gift it to the NICU that looked after your baby.
As for Lorna's son, he's now in school and has welcomed his sibling into the family, not long after filming.